Um, one of the things I think is that I love this open mic concept today. It's going to be really fun.
Check,
Hi,
check,
everyone.
check, check.
What's that? What? Hey, everyone. I am Jim Gast, and welcome to the Reboot. We appreciate you watching and listening on the podcast. And just remember, every week on Wednesday at 1:30 Eastern Time, you can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook under some platform. Who's got the background noise today, guys?
Not me.
Is that me?
Root. It is you. You got background noise. And anyway, so I'd like to introduce my friends today, right there.
Brian Bradley, B&L, BC Solutions, Long Island, New York.
And I'm Dave Groot with Windstar Technologies in Culpeper, Virginia.
And I think it's obvious that that we have an open mic today. You know why people have open mics?
Tell us,
Because
Jim.
they're not creative enough to come up with solutions and ideas to have conversations. That's why we're having an open mic today.
Is that what it was?
I just didn't have. I mean, we didn't have an inspirational thing, right? You know, so I'm like, there's a lot we can talk about, a lot we probably don't talk about. So why not just do an open mic on it, right? So, David Groot, as I said, what is grinding your gears?
Oh, let's see. The same things that's always grinding my gears, really. We are faced with a increased level of threat in the cybersecurity space on a daily basis to the small businesses of this country. We are seeing crazy stuff go on in our world, war, Russia, the whole nine yards. Everybody's just got something going on, but nobody seems to really think it's going to impact them. And it gets, if I may say, it's sort of frustrating.
Yeah.
We're constantly talking about it. We're constantly trying to make people aware, and we're protecting them. And then something still happens, or they're not wanting the protection, and then something happens, and then they look at you and they're like, why? And it's like, well, because you didn't want to do what we said. And I had an opportunity last week. I was able to actually get into a meet and greet with Marcus Lemonis for half an hour. And one of the questions that I asked him was, what is it that you as a business owner need to hear to understand the risk that you're under? He's actually been breached. And so
I didn't know that.
He did not have a good answer for me on that.
Mm-hmm.
I put him on the spot, so it's not like I would expect him to come with that answer, but it's a tough thing. Like, what is it that you say? What's that one phrase that's going to get the attention of a C-level executive that's going to make them understand, like, look, man, this is really not a game.
You know what, man? You could tell it on the mountain as loud as you wanted to. And my opinion is it is always going to fall on deaf ears, right? I think, first off, I hate security.
I hate the fact that we have to do it.
What's that?
I hate that we have to do it.
Yeah, no, I do. It isn't that I hate the technology. I love the technology. It's great that, we can wield that much control, but I want you to consider where it comes from, right? If there wasn't bad guys, it wouldn't be there. Okay. And that's the part that I hate, because I know we only have to do it because of the bad guys. And we'll never fix the bad guys. It is
been an issue in society forever, right?
Well, not only bad guys. I mean, you can have, catastrophe or something go on, or hardware failure, and not be able to recover from that. Your building goes on fire and you have no, so it's not just the bad guys. I mean, granted, that's a big part of it, but also there's just natural circumstances that you may not, that are irrecoverable if you don't have the right stuff in place. I spoke to somebody this morning, and real conversation, not spitballing here. And he knows that we don't handle his backup. He has his own little system in place, does some international work, and we support the environment exclusively, except for backups. And conversation today was, I said to him, you really got to do something here. We have to get out of this Synology NAS scenario and look at a true solution. And we were talking, and halfway through the conversation, he emailed me and said, all right, take a look at this form I got from a client. I have to fill this out for them. And the first thing on it was they want to see his business continuity / disaster recovery policy. I said, okay. I said, where is that? You don't have one. He goes, well, no, that's you guys. I said, you see what you just did there? I said, I'm more than happy to do that. I mean, we should be. I said, but don't, don't just assume that we have that. That's part of this conversation, is that you
Yeah.
need that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, and that's gonna listen. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and it's still the same thing. It's the assumption, oh, it's my IT guys. They do everything,
Yeah.
but it's not the case in a lot of situations.
I will look. We're not moving away from the cybersecurity conversation, but I'm going to give you an analogy to your example, right? I got my car back after being at the mechanics for 3 weeks, right? It was safer not to drive the car rather than drive it and cost a lot more money, possibly, right? Okay, so no problem. So 3 weeks they had it, not an expensive fix, like $750. A rental car cost me more. But when I got it back, I'm driving and I'm like, these brakes seem kind of grinding a little bit, and I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't you have checked that? Isn't that his responsibility? But you know what? I didn't pay him to check the brakes. I paid him to fix the oil leak problem that I had, right? And so it's the same thing, man. You can't make those assumptions if you're not explicitly paying for it or you're not explicitly asking for it. Sorry, you're going to be out of luck when that time comes.
Yeah, and there was a conversation was the fact that there's a new CFO at the company and he's questioning bills, and I said, let me talk to him. I said, I'll talk to him with you. I said, if we don't have his buy-in, this isn't going to work. I said, because it's we all know how serious it is. We don't even have to go there, but it's like it's just still that mentality that well, everything, we don't need that, we don't need that, and then even in casual conversation, well, if this happens, here's your recovery time on that, and if you're okay with that, great, because that's what you've had for the last 4 years.
Yeah,
assuming that he could recover.
And I said, I have no idea.
Yeah. So David Group, let's go back to preaching it on the mountain to deaf ears. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's insurance. Let's face it. It's just another form of insurance.
It's funny you say that, because that's really becoming more and more the catalyst, right, for the conversation to start, at least. I can't tell you how many times we get calls. Do we do security awareness training, or do we have EDR, or, can you look at this policy? And that's the one thing that has brought that to the forefront.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense on some level, but it's a shame. Jim, you go back to your service station analogy there. Like, that kind of brings about a concept of what we as IT providers should be doing to communicate better what they're not getting, without focusing on the negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I don't like to talk about what we're not doing to a client unless it's very important and they need it. But I'd rather talk about what we do, right? I don't, I just always try and approach something from a more, believe it or not, positive perspective.
And well, just because you're not doing it doesn't make it negative. It just means that that's not something we're taking care of.
Understood, right? No, and so how do we, what is the service that a business can do? What's that extra level? How do what is the perception? So, like, my question is, like, when you find out that he didn't check your oil, are you mad?
Nope.
What about other people?
I'm not mad at all on that one, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I'm not paying him to do that all the time, right? I mean, yeah, I know the guy. He's been my mechanic, and I'll tell you what, he can never get a girlfriend, or never get married, because when he does, right, I can't get a hold of him. It's the worst in the world, right? So, but I need this guy, and if I ask him to do something, I have the expectation if he says he's going to do it, he'll do it. Right.
Yeah, but that's you, Jim, right? I mean, for certain that there's people that they drop that car off, they get it fixed, then they leave, and the brakes are a little hokey, and they're gonna be like, go back to him, and my brakes were fine before you touched my car. It's like,
that's right.
That's not you, but I'm just saying that
those
are the people that come to us with the same thing. Like, oh, that's all you guys. You guys have all that. Like,
that's a different conversation, though. Than unfortunately, than the completeness of what you're doing versus not doing in security. And unfortunately, we're not going to always have customers that are going to be understanding. Things just break. You know, my mother-in-law, every time something breaks, she blames my father-in-law for it. You know, they've been married for like 60 years. So I guess it's okay for the two of them. But I couldn't deal with that. You know, if I didn't touch it, if I didn't break it, things just break over time, right? There are outside influences. You know, hackers are trying to get in, right? You know, people are, you know, through different means all the time. And so eventually it's just going to happen. You know, let me ask you guys this. I mean, let's just say, you know, we've preached it on the mountain. It didn't fall into some ears, you know, that were deaf. It fell on, you know, ears that were listening. I mean, are we covering all the bases we can for customers? Are they asking for certain things and we're giving them less than what they need? Do we gauge it based on the type of customer they are, their available finances to spend on the solutions? What do you
I
guys
think
think?
unless you're doing some kind of, you know, personally, unless you're doing a co-managed deal where some of the stuff is handled in-house, we except for the example I gave you, but anything within the last, you know, 14 months plus, new clients, new business, there's no shortage of services. They get everything. That's what we propose, and that's what we fully support.
Mhm.
So to answer your question though, are there clients that don't have everything that we're not doing everything for them that we could be? Certainly, certainly there are. And is that does it come down to cost? Possibly. Does it come down to not being able to get in there and talk to them? Bad communication on either end? Possibly. I mean, there's a couple of different reasons for that. Inexcusable, but we do come across that. You know, there are those, and then we have those the ones that want the simple, you know, small business, simple environment, just need offsite backup and EDR, and they're good, and that's
Mhm.
fine for them. So
Mhm.
not everyone's the same.
You know, I don't take on a customer that doesn't want backup. If we're taking care of them, we're helping them in some form or fashion. And I'm not just talking about selling licenses to them. That's one type of customer. I'm talking about somebody that we're managing at the fingers and you're managing, right? If they're not going to take our backup solution, we're not going to manage them. Do you guys do the same thing when it comes to levels of security? Do you draw the line and say, look, you don't want antivirus? And I know nobody's going to say this, right? This makes no sense. Maybe. But if somebody says, oh, we don't want antivirus, it slows our computers down and we don't want to pay for it. You know, what good is it anyway today? Is that going to be a customer of yours? You guys going to walk away from that?
Two answers. A, I don't ask. And B, like, you won't be a customer if you don't. I mean, I'm just like,
There's our answer.
it's part of the package. It is not something that you're going to not pay me or pay me for. It's, if you're going to engage me, then that's going to be a part of the engagement.
Right.
It's that
Why?
important.
Why?
Because it's that important. Because
Gotcha.
that is, if there's one thing in the world that you should do, and I'm not saying that it is only one thing, but if you're only going to do one thing, do EDR. That's all. Somebody could argue that 1,000 different ways, and I'm not saying EDR is enough.
I know what EDR is, by the way. I want you to tell people that
endpoint
might not know
detection
what
and
that is.
response,
Say it
and
again.
or an
Say it again.
advanced antivirus program that is more new generation, based on AI and machine learning, not based on standard definition updates.
And what does it
So
do? How does it work?
it watches the real-time processes that are taking place on a computer and compares them to historic things that have taken place in that environment to determine if it feels it's an anomaly or not. If it is an anomaly, it can then self-isolate the machine until such time that it's remediated, and we can then look further and do threat hunting and clear it up.
So it is not your grandma's antivirus.
No, it's something that can detect a fileless attack. It's something that can, detect something 0 day, no definitions. Nobody else heard of it, doesn't even understand that it exists. It just came out right now.
And that's because it's doing something smart.
Yep.
Artificial
It's
intelligence.
using intelligence on some level. Is it perfect? No, but it's way better than your standard and traditional antivirus program. And if you're only going to do one thing, then that's the one thing you should do.
Brian, is it the same for you, Brian? I mean, do you believe the same thing? EDR is the one thing? I mean, we all have our opinions, and it's okay if it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with what David's saying, and
I mean, zero trust is another big ad. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that is obviously a big piece. But again, if we're only doing one, right, that's the question. Because I know both of those pieces really need to take place.
Yeah.
And we've taken over
and
clients that, and again, it may be a different EDR than we sell, and that's okay too. But I do preface my proposal presentation to them by saying, well, here's the number one,
Right.
according to MITRE in recent studies. So that's what we sell. But you're on number 5. We can keep that, but
Right.
just put it out there.
Right. Well,
That's a sales menu right there, buddy.
I mean, again, for us, it's not even a price difference, right? Like, it's not
Right.
like you're going to save a buck or whatever. It's just built in. It has to be. But I'd like to say also that change the topic slightly, but kind of keep it in the same vein.
Open mic, buddy.
Small businesses that work with their IT department, and that's either internal or outsourced, any of those folks. IT is in every aspect of your business today. I don't care what business you're in. It's tied to every aspect of your business: sales, marketing, operations, HR, all of it. If you work with those people who know A, your business, and B, technology, and you build strategies to be more efficient, more effective, cost less money, get things done right the first time, make it more secure, you can literally come out of it in a zero cost effect, or potentially saving money by paying and doing all the right things that you need to do in the proper way, because of the loss and the inefficiency and the time suck and all the other stuff you're not measuring in your business today because you don't have somebody doing those things. I've shown over and over and over and over again to people how that can reverse just by using technology, and it'll more than pay for your service provider and your security needs.
I'd like to add to that, and I have a really good example of it. We walk into many of businesses. This isn't even managing something. I can walk into a business, grab their internet bill, okay, based on their internet bill, say, yep, you've got enough bandwidth, you don't have enough bandwidth, or you're choking, your phones are having a problem because of this, that, and the other, because they're running over that bandwidth, and or you're spending too much money because you didn't know how to negotiate your agreement.
Right.
And that's what a managed service provider can do.
I mean, I have a client right now who has 6 different companies, 7 or 8 locations, 7 or 8 internet providers, all under broadband, under bandwidth, all priced too high, separate phone systems, separate phone numbers, separate everything. We have tried and proposed and shown on paper the costs that are being put out on a monthly basis. If they were to consolidate that, like you just mentioned, and then bring in, and we could set them up with a new PBX, and it would be a central phone system for the whole company. They could use 12 phone lines, and that'd be it, whatever. Over and over and over and over again, and they just it's different, and so
Yep.
they can't get their head wrapped around it, and therefore it must be a lie.
Yeah.
And so they just keep paying what's been traditional and standard. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's not that, but
it's change. It's change. Let's call it change for conversation. Okay.
We'll be nice.
We'll be nice. No, and you know what? This kind of goes with what IT companies should do, right? We talked about the security platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got that guy walking.
He's been there a couple of times.
Talk about a show stealer, and so
as long as he doesn't drop his drawers and start, All right.
I don't know about that guy. Sometimes I wonder. So anyway, my point is this. I mean, there's IT people out there that are, I'll just fix your computer when it breaks, and call me when you need me. Oh yeah, use antivirus. I'll put in some antivirus, and it does what it does, and I'm not going to keep an eye on it when it needs work. Yeah, I'm going to check on it because, you're telling me it needs something. you know, and we'll update your computers once a month because, well, you know, we have to. And then there's people that manage, right? And management can mean, well, okay, we're going to patch. Why are we going to patch? Well, because we're told to, or we're going to patch because of security, right? We're going to keep things running, but we're not going to provide the best inbreed security, you know. And then there's the IT providers like us, okay, that look at that as a responsibility to run the IT and security for a business. I also look at it for efficiency, like you were saying too, and cost optimization and so on and so forth. We meet with our clients to do that. And I would say, Dave, what you're saying is that you don't want to be on the other end of that spectrum because that's costing you more. First off, just the hidden costs
That's right.
of what you're not getting, improving and saving and so on and so forth, and risking versus, and on top of that, their hourly costs, you know, they make money at your demise, right? So if something goes wrong, they don't share in your demise, in your loss, you know. That's the line I love. I use that line all the time.
Well, I
When
think, Jim, a
you
lot
ever-
of the stuff that we do, the EDR, the business continuity, the backups, none of that, at least for us, is just set it and forget it. We don't drop it in and just
Nope.
kind of walk away and it's self-sufficient. Every day I got somebody that goes through the entire backup fleet, SaaS backup, on-site backup, off-site backup. Once a month we do virtualization testing. EDR is constantly monitored and updated. We're creating exclusions, policies. Same thing with business continuity, cybersecurity policies. We write them, we calendar and mark them to review every quarter. So it's you're getting a service. You're not just getting a product that gets dropped in and is self-sufficient. You're investing in a team that's going to provide a service. You know, exemplary service is the goal, right? And it's you know, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Well, you know, don't you got to know what you're paying for, you know.
Well, that's it.
I really, you know what, we're going to close it up here. We're already
Yep.
22 minutes into this. Good conversation. I like open mic. We need to do this more often. I like kind of where we meander with the conversation. There's so much more we could talk about. But you know, I think where we started, listen, pay attention to your IT providers. If they're not teaching and educating, then maybe you don't have the right kind of IT provider. Was that a fair statement, guys?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We've had a separate conversation about that too on one of our shows.
A whole separate conversation. If they're not recommending, if they're not evaluating, scaring you, okay? And I hate to say it, you know, I don't fear monger, but I want people to have a healthy respect.
If they're not kind of pissing you off from time to time, like I hate to say that, but it's like, what do you mean my 5-year-old computer is not fast enough? It's like, you know, when you're paying somebody $26 an hour, and hey, by the way, it's hard to find staff these days. And so you're asking that person to do twice as much, but you're asking them to wait for 20 minutes every time they click on something for the computer to catch up. That's stupid.
Yeah. So, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut us off here. We're back again next week. You know, I hope this is valuable. I love it, Mike. We'll have a good topic next week. We've always got something on the back burner, but I thought it was kind of due for an open conversation. So, guys, thanks a bunch. Really appreciate the conversation today.
Amen.
Cool, guys.
Everyone, take care, and we will see you next Wednesday, 1:30 Eastern time on the Reboot.
See ya.
Yep.